Later, we'll discuss a very interesting study, Checkmate 227. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure for me to be here and be able to speak with all of you before this is presented this afternoon. It's about immunotherapy in non-small cell lung cancer, and just to try to define with you the niche of patients we are discussing, it's exactly the patients who were not discussed previously, for the all-comers patients who are not characterized by any specific driver alteration or specific target in the tumor. So we're speaking about the majority of patients. This is my disclosure. Just to start and to put the data into the context, nivolumab and ipilimumab present with distinct but complementary mechanisms of action. To make a long story short, ipilimumab, the anti-CTLA-4 monoclonal antibody, will induce de novo anti-tumor T cell response and also allow for the promotion of the emergence of memory T cells. Nivolumab, an anti-PD-1, will restore anti-tumor T cell function and enhance pre-existing T cell response. And this creates a biological rationale why we try to combine the both compounds in many disease entities. The landscape of lung cancer has become this unselected non-small cell lung cancer has become very complex. And as you can see, and I invite you to go through the new ESMO Living Guidelines, there are many options frontline nowadays. We would like to give immunotherapy to all patients frontline, being very often combined with chemotherapy. And in very specific patients with a pre-existing immune response, we call them high PD-L1, sometimes chemo-sparing regimen. We like it because we like not to give chemo frontline, but it's still restricted to a very small subset of patients. So the idea of the trial was to try to understand if, by reinforcing the immunotherapy, we can have a little more patients benefiting from immunotherapy-only strategy, chemotherapy-sparing regimen. On the right-hand side on this slide, you can see that when we combine everything, chemo and immunotherapy, we obtain obviously benefit as compared to anything without immunotherapy. But still, we have to improve the benefit of what we do. The overall survival is still under 2 years, and as you can see, the duration of response, these curves are not curves that you like to see. They fall down very fast. Still, the duration of response is short, right? So a room for improvement. So nivolumab and ipilimumab, like I said before, has shown promising activity in different cancer types. Think about renal cell carcinoma, think about melanoma, and has also shown activity in the early trials in non-small cell lung cancer. Keep in mind that the dose of ipilimumab had to be optimized specifically in non-small cell lung cancer to low dose in order to secure a manageable safety profile. It's an important point. The complex Checkmate 227 trial is a randomized open-label phase 3 study investigating nivolumab-based therapies versus chemotherapy frontline. And it had 2 co-primary endpoints. You probably keep in mind and remember that the first co-primary endpoint of PFS for nivo-EP versus chemo was met and already presented last year. And here, the focus of today is to discuss the second independent co-primary endpoint of overall survival for nivo-EP versus chemotherapy in patients with PD-L1 positive tumor. And you'll see in my presentation this afternoon, I will give you more details about the rest of the study, but this is the main points. Let's keep in mind the 227 trial design. So 227 trial design is a trial which was selecting patients for classical advanced non-small cell lung cancer, good performance status, stratified by histology. And they were enrolled in 2 distinct cohorts, separated distinct cohorts. In positive PD-L1 patients, more than 1,100 patients, these patients were randomized 1:1:1 to nivo and low-dose EP, nivo or chemo. In the other separated cohort, negative PD-L1 patients were randomized to nivo-EP low dose, this time nivo and chemo, and chemotherapy. And treatment was continued until disease progression and acceptable toxicity. And you remember, for immunotherapy, we fix at 2 years the maximum duration of treatment. And as I said before, primary endpoint, 2 independent co-primary endpoints. The PFS in high TMB has been presented and published, you know it, and today we discuss the OS in PD-L1 positive patients. There's also a series of secondary endpoints that I will not describe here, which are organized by PD-L1 hierarchy that I will evoke this afternoon, but we'd like to focus on these OS endpoints now. For the primary endpoint of overall survival for nivo and EP versus chemotherapy in positive PD-L1 patients was met. The overall survival was statistically significantly improved, I would even say clinically, with a clinically meaningful improvement, with 17.1 months for the median OS for nivo-EP and 14.9 for chemotherapy. It corresponds to a hazard ratio of 0.79. It's probably quite important to stress two things with you. The first thing is, at the time being, 43% of the patients in the chemo arm crossed over afterwards to immunotherapy in the subsequent lines of treatment. So almost half of them got immunotherapy later on. And last but not least, we have more than 2.5 years of follow-up. So knowing that the patient stopped immunotherapy at 2 years, these survival curves are mature, meaning that the durability and the benefit of nivo-EP is established based on mature overall survival curves. Of course, the main question I know will come is, what is the contribution of the ipilimumab? Do you really need this component of the contribution of the component of CTLA-4 inhibition? And here you can see that the answer is probably yes, because nivo-EP has a 17.1 median OS, nivo a 15.7, and chemo a 14.9. And looking at the curves, the separation between nivo-EP and nivo is sustained over time and is obvious. And as you can see also, what is extremely striking when you use EP-nivo, really very different, is the duration of response. Look at the duration of response with nivo-EP with 23 months of duration of response as compared to 15.5 for nivo. Basically, half of the patients on the nivo-EP who respond are still in response at 2 years, which is really amazing in that disease, right, which is lung cancer. Of course, remember the second cohort, separated cohort in negative PD-L1. What is interesting is we observe the same result. EP-nivo is better than chemo, 17.2 versus 12.2, hazard ratio 0.62. Basically, the nivo-EP performs similarly in negative PD-L1 and in positive PD-L1. So similarly across all strata of PD-L1 expression. 227 offers this opportunity of making everything complex, but of comparing various strategies in clinical scenarios. And in this negative PD-L1 patient, you remember you have one arm with nivo and chemo. And again here, to try to look at the components, nivo-EP is performing better than nivo-chemo, with a kind of a nice separation over time of the curves, showing that it's also more favorable than nivo-chemo in negative PD-L1 patients. So you will not be surprised what I said before. If nivo-EP is superior in negative PD-L1, superior in positive PD-L1 strata, it's superior to chemo in all randomized patients in that trial with a hazard ratio of 0.73. So basically, with the conclusion that it met its primary endpoint in the positive PD-L1 patients. And it's interesting because that is the first phase 3 study proving the concept in an evidence-based fashion of the combination of CTLA-4 and anti-PD-1 or anti-PD-L1 in non-small cell lung cancer. The improvement was seen beyond the primary endpoint in unselected patients, and to me it represents a new frontline option. And then we will play, and you'll see during this meeting with the discussions, and Marina will start this super discussion, that we will play with algorithm. Who should receive what? Who should receive nivo-EP? Who should receive chemo? Who should receive only pembro? So this discussion will just start today, and I'm looking forward to have it. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Solange. And now it's time for Marina Garasino to discuss this study.
So, good morning, everybody. So it's incredible that after 5 years, we are here to talk about multiple options for the treatment of non-small cell lung cancer. And Professor Peters presented data for the majority of patients with non-small cell lung cancer, because in the Western countries, this population represents 90% of our patients. So it's incredible to be here to think about multiple possibilities. Just to go back to the story of non-small cell lung cancer. 5 years ago, we started with a single agent in second line, and we observed that there were long-lasting responses for some patients. They were about 20% of the patients, and they are still alive here after 5 years. The second point was the selection of patients. 3 years ago in the plenary session, we were here to discuss the possibility to treat patients in the first-line setting, PD-L1 more than 50% with single-agent pembrolizumab. Last year was the year of the combination of chemotherapy and immunotherapy. This was again for all comers, and it was irrespective by PD-L1 status. Now we are here to discuss the same possibility of combining two immunotherapy, anti-CTLA-4 and nivolumab, ipilimumab and nivolumab, for the same population. So nowadays we have 3 options. We can treat patients with a single agent pembrolizumab and also maybe yesterday with atezolizumab. We have the possibility to treat our patient with chemotherapy and immunotherapy, and now we have the possibility to treat patients with immunotherapy and immunotherapy. What is the promise of the 227? The promise of the 227 is to have long-lasting responses. That means long life for our patients with a chemo regimen sparing. But at the same time, we have to go back to the bench and to the side and to act as scientists to understand who are the right patients to be treated with a combination with immunotherapy and then immunotherapy, with a combination of chemotherapy and immunotherapy, and just with a single agent. I think that we need some years to understand very well what is the right treatment algorithm, but the good news is that nowadays, in 2019 in ESMO, we have the great option to have multiple possibilities to treat our patients. I think that the voice of the patients will play a role. We'll need time to discuss all these options with the patients. We are in the time of patient empowerment, of decision-making, and I'm sure that also the patients will play a fundamental role in the decision for the first-line treatment. Thank you for your attention.